What's up everyone, Justin here, and welcome to the full comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Samsung Galaxy S3. The Samsung Galaxy S3 had proved itself very successful in the Android market over the past year, and Samsung is pretty much trying to build upon the success of the S3 with the Samsung Galaxy S4. And although the design pretty much remains the same, there are quite a few predominant features that may prove the Samsung Galaxy S4 a worthy upgrade over the Samsung Galaxy S3. Starting with the hardware, the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Samsung Galaxy S3 overall look pretty much similar. However, there are a few distinctive features that you may notice. On the front, the Samsung Galaxy S4 has a 4.99-inch display, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 has a 4.8-inch display. When it comes to the thickness, the Samsung Galaxy S4 comes in at slightly lighter at 7.9mm, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 is 8.6. However, regardless of the thickness of these two devices, the weight is pretty much same on both of them. The S3 comes in at 133 grams, while the S4 comes in ever so slightly lighter at 130. Flipping it over to the back, these two devices retain a similar polycarbonate construction, and though many may not like the plastic finish as it feels cheap on these two premium phones, some others may enjoy the fact that you're able to easily remove the backplate and access your battery as well as your micro SD card and SIM card, and may enjoy the convenience as a trade-off. When it comes to the display, the Samsung Galaxy S3 has a 4.8-inch 1280 by 720 resolution Super AMOLED display with a 306 ppi pixel density, while the successor, the Samsung Galaxy S4, has an upgraded screen at 1920 by 1080 Full HD resolution and a 5-inch Super HD AMOLED display, which definitely looks really amazing. Overall, for the most part, the displays look really similar, if not almost the same. However, if you take a closer look side by side, you will notice that the Samsung Galaxy S4 screen just seems just a tad sharper, and the colors do seem a little bit more saturated and they pop out a little bit better as opposed to the Samsung Galaxy S3. However, the display on the Galaxy S3 is still superb. When it comes to the software, the Samsung Galaxy S4 runs Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 runs Android 4.1. Both these devices have the Samsung Touch with Skin UI. Although some people may not like it, the overall experience on both these devices have a lot of similarities. However, the Samsung Galaxy S4 in particular had many new features introduced to it, as you may have saw in Samsung's press event. A lot of these used a lot of the new sensors that are included in the Samsung Galaxy S4, such as the eye tracking, etc. However, with many new features, for example, the windows and the multitasking where you can run another application on the half of your screen, for example, and a lot of the camera stuff they added to the Samsung Galaxy S4, it is very possible that some of the features may be carried over to the Samsung Galaxy S3 in a future software update. However, Samsung hasn't actually said an official word on that. When you look at the interface on the S3, it is overall pretty similar. Like I mentioned, the settings bar is the same, the notifications pretty much seem the same as well, and the overall experience you're going to get on both these devices on a visual basis is going to be really similar, and at first looks, it may not even be that noticeable. So now it's time to run some real life benchmarks. First off, we're going to run Geekbench 2. The Samsung Galaxy S4 model I've got here is the international 8-core model with the Exynos 5 Octa processor, clocked in at 1.6 GHz. However, the North American version will have a Snapdragon 600 processor, clocked in at 1.9 GHz, and that is a quad-core processor. But in terms of the benchmark differences, you shouldn't notice a huge difference. And of course, the Samsung Galaxy S4 has 1.82 GB of RAM. Moving over to the Samsung Galaxy S3, this features a Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor clocked in at 1.51 GHz, and it features 1.56 GB of RAM. So now let's go ahead and run the test. The final score is what's going to count, and the Samsung Galaxy S4 comes out with a score of about 3,412. However, from previous tests, I did hit the 3,600 mark. Either way, from these scores itself, it beat the Samsung Galaxy S3 by about 2.5 times, so you could tell that these are really respectable scores, and that the Samsung Galaxy S4, in terms of its processing power, is a powerhouse. So now let's test out Quadrant Standard on these phones, and pretty much what it does is it runs a series of 3D and 2D graphics animations to see how the graphics handling is on both the phones. So the Samsung Galaxy S4 came out with a score in the high 12,000s, almost in the 13,000s, while the Samsung Galaxy S4 broke the 6,000 mark. Overall, that is still a pretty respectable score, but you can tell by the amount of power put into the Samsung Galaxy S4, it definitely hands down beats out the Samsung Galaxy S3 easily. So the next test we're going to run is the Antutu benchmark. What this does is also test out the CPU and GPU performance, so pretty much gives you an overall score of the processing power of these phones. It also runs a series of 3D animations, and you can see that the Samsung Galaxy S4 came out with a score of 26,883 as opposed to the Samsung Galaxy S3's 11,117. When you take a look at the CPU performance, it is also more than double the Samsung Galaxy S3, as well as the GPU performance, which is pretty much about double the Samsung Galaxy S3 as well. So the Samsung Galaxy S4, through its Snapdragon 600 or 8-core processor, depending on the version you have, will definitely prove itself to be very, very powerful, especially compared to other phones out there. Next up, we're going to use speed tests and check out the Wi-Fi speeds between these two devices. Both of them are running off the same test server, and I have decided that we're going to run one device at a time in order to get accurate results. So I went ahead and ran the test. The Samsung Galaxy S4 came out with a pretty good score of 18.38 megabits per second down, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 came out with also a pretty respectable score of 14.41 megabits per second down. So overall, both these devices, a 4 megabit difference is really not too much, but now let's go ahead and run the real life web browsing tests. So now it's time to run an everyday task on both these phones, which is pretty much opening a web page on both devices and seeing which one loads up the page first. So let's just hit the search button at the same time on both these devices, and you can see that the animation on the S3 was a little bit faster, but overall the web page is loaded at the exact same time. Let's just open up the Samsung website. And you can see that the S3 finished like literally a fraction of a second faster than the S4. There's really almost no difference, you can call it. And the last page we're going to load up is just the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 page. And the Samsung Galaxy S4 was again just about a fraction faster than the Samsung Galaxy S3. So in general, I'd almost say that both these devices in terms of web browsing speeds are exactly the same. When it comes to the camera, the Samsung Galaxy S4 has been upgraded to a whopping 13 megapixels. The Samsung Galaxy S3 still has a really respectable 8 megapixel sensor, and both the cameras also have LED flash in low light situations. On the front, the Samsung Galaxy S4 has a 2 megapixel front facing camera, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 is not far behind at 1.9 megapixels. The phones are also great for using stuff like Skype with the front facing camera built in. Before we take an actual look of the camera quality itself, we're going to take a look at the OS on both these phones. Here's the Samsung Galaxy S3. You can see it still gives you quite a bit of versatility in terms of the settings, and there are also quite a few pre-built filters as well that do look pretty cool. And there's also quite a few shooting modes as well, and the flash control, and that's what you use to flip the camera from back to front. On the Samsung Galaxy S4, Samsung has also introduced many new shooting modes to the camera itself, many of which seem pretty interesting. So going back to the main menu, we're going to take a look at the settings bar. You can see it allows you to control some of the things in your photos, such as the ISO, white balance, for example. And we're going to go into the full settings there, and it lets you control all these things you might want to play around with before you actually start using the camera a lot. There's just the video settings, and there's also the GPS sharing settings, for example, and your controls, such as using the volume key for zoom. There are also quite a few different filters that are built in as well, and as you can see, it gives you a live preview of what the filter would look like, and you can really easily change them, so I find that pretty interesting as well. When it comes to rear-facing camera tests, you can see that the Samsung Galaxy S4 is great at capturing an incredible amount of detail due to its 13 megapixel sensor, while the Samsung Galaxy S3 is really good as well, and you can see that the colors somewhat are oversaturated when you compare them. Some people may like that, some people may not. In my opinion, I kind of want a balance between a natural look as well as a little bit of added saturation to the image, so it really comes down to what you would like, but both of the cameras on these phones are definitely amazing performers. Moving on to the video test, you could tell that the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Samsung Galaxy S3 both take really good videos. However, the Samsung Galaxy S3 seemed to do a little bit better in terms of its color vibrance and saturation. When it comes to sensors and additional features, the Samsung Galaxy S4 is nothing short of them. The sensors may include the barometer, thermometer, RGB light sensor, proximity sensor, hydrometer, gyroscope, gesture sensor, and accelerometer. Samsung has tried to put these to good use with apps such as S Health, where it pretty much senses your environment as well, and stuff like the eye tracking software is really cool as well, which I'm going to show you guys in a few clips. When you look at the top, there's also an IR Blaster to use Samsung TV controlling app that is compatible with Samsung TVs, which is pretty handy to have it all on your phone as well. All in all, it is really cool that Samsung has included all these sensors, as the great thing is that it can always be adapted by software. Here's just a look at the eye scrolling feature, as well as smart pause, which pretty much senses when your eye is looking at the screen, and when you look away it would automatically pause the video and resume when you look back. Another thing is there is also the smart hover, which you hover over and it pretty much gives you a quick preview. The Samsung Galaxy S3 also has a few of its sensors of its own as well, such as the barometer proximity sensor, gyroscope, and of course the accelerometer to perform its basic tasks. So now it's time to give you guys the final verdict. The Samsung Galaxy S3 had already proved itself over the last year to be very successful in the crowded, competitive Android market. The Samsung Galaxy S4, on the other hand, is Samsung trying to build upon the success of the already successful Samsung Galaxy S3. Like a lot of successors or sequels out there, the Samsung Galaxy S4 had very high expectations. I'm not going to say that it didn't meet the expectations, however, a lot of people out there were disappointed that the Samsung Galaxy S4 mostly remained the same as the Samsung Galaxy S3. However, there are quite a few features that divide it with the Samsung Galaxy S3. Some of them may include the little bit larger screen, but overall the screen quality of the screen just jumps out to you a little bit more than what it does on the Samsung Galaxy S3. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. And secondly, the camera has been upgraded to a 13 megapixel camera, so for you photo enthusiasts out there, you might be interested in that. Otherwise, the Samsung Galaxy S3 is still a very good choice, and if you have it, more often than not, I would recommend you stick with it and not go ahead and have to pay the extra price to upgrade to the Samsung Galaxy S4. However, in my opinion, I do feel that for some, you may feel that the S4 is a good upgrade. Overall, we might wait and see, as some of the new features will come to the Samsung Galaxy S3 in a future update by Samsung. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more content. Be sure to also check out all the Samsung Galaxy S4 videos I have, and I'll see you all in my next video.